Alright, how's it going, everybody? In this video, I want to talk about the Super Bowl. I know I'm a couple days late, but I just been kind of busy, and usually my videos take forever to upload, so I doubt this even gets up until tomorrow. But yeah, so some of the things I'm going to point out may be already known, because I know Zach has found a lot with it already, but then there's a few things I feel like that are still here that I want to talk about. So just to get started, Patrick Mahomes, his birthday being on September 17th. Something I found kind of wild is the governor of Missouri, his name's Mike Parson. He shares that same birthday, September 17th, and he's currently 64 years old. 64 we're going to talk a lot about, but then also take notice of his, up here in his biography, that he's the 57th governor of Missouri, 57 being a big number. I can just point out some things like Super Bowl LIV has the 57, and it's a big championship number as well, because whenever you type out championship, well, I can't type, championship equals 131, and I should have pointed out that Super Bowl has the 131, so when you actually type out 57, you get 131. And it even has the 50, just like how it's been 50 years since the Chiefs been to the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's what 57 is about. So that kind of stands out. And then having taken office on June 1st, it says that we'll talk about 61 too, because Andy Reid is 61 years old. And well, I guess he was a 47th lieutenant. I didn't know that. But moving on to more 64s, is that back in 2018, Mahomes was recognized for breaking Lynn Dawson's 1964 record, having been 30 touchdowns in a single season, and then Mahomes breaks it with 31 touchdowns. So, I mean, we'll get to understand that 31 a little bit better too, because, I mean, even what was the score of the game? 31-20? So, November 11th, just a recap of that game. That was when they played against the Cardinals, and I wanted to point out that the Cardinals became 2-7. So whenever you run November 11th, 2018 to February 2nd, 2020, it's exactly 64 weeks. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. And then one thing I did notice, whenever you subtract, because this was in 2018, when you subtract 2018, 1964 from 2018, that's actually 54 years difference, just like how this was Super Bowl 54. And to go with more 64s, Kansas City Chiefs equals 64. Philadelphia Eagles tweeted out after the Super Bowl, times yours, Andy. And it sounds, I mean, so times yours, I had to run it, and that's 64. And then even his name alone, Andy, equals 64. And I know Zach's already talked about this one, but this is a really good find, that Chiefs have 64 combined points in all three Super Bowls, being Super Bowl I, the score was 35-10, 10 points for the Chiefs. Super Bowl IV, they had 23 points, it was 23-7. Super Bowl 54, they had 31 points. Add them all up, it's 64 points. I mean, come on. So even when you type out 64, you get 50, just like San Francisco equals 50, Chiefs equals 50, and I know everyone by now knows about Jennifer Lopez's age, because they're talking about the Super Bowl halftime show. She's 50. And notice Chiefs, yeah, like I said, have that 31 connection. And when you actually run February 2nd this year from the Super Bowl to Jennifer Lopez's upcoming birthday, it's 174 days, just like Super Bowl LIV equals 174. And notice that will be her 51st birthday. So we'll talk about a little bit on 51. I mean, 51 too was the total points scored in the Super Bowl. So yeah, so Super Bowl LIV has that 174, and Kansas City MO has the 174, and they have the 150 connection as well. There's your 57. 42 stands out because they were calling this the year of the black quarterback, And we know that black people are stamped with the numbers 42, 59, and 76 quite often. And Native Americans have 154 in their name and the 64. 15 and 4 for 49ers and Chiefs, their overall record. 15 and 4. 251 we know is the 54th prime number, again Super Bowl 54. And when you write out Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, has the 98 connection. So, I mean, yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs has had a whole bunch of historical Native American events that happened throughout. I mean, if you guys haven't watched, I think my video is called like something about how the Saints died in the Ghost Dance War. I thought that one was pretty neat because it was about 174. And yeah, just go back and look at some of my old videos if you want any of that information. But anyways, Demi Lovato, the girl who sang the national anthem, she even equals 154. It's just wild because, just like they say, like everyone that's in the halftime show or anything to deal with the Super Bowl, and they give you these people at the beginning of the season, and they're major clues. So it's wild. So then going back to September 23rd of 2018, when Garoppolo supposedly injured his knee with a torn ACL, and how I've been talking about in one of my last videos about how the Wounded Knee Massacre was a big play on everything because Garoppolo recently had a big knee injury, and then supposedly Mahomes had a dislocated knee. I mean, so too many, I don't know, I find it pretty funny. But anyways, I want to point out that they had a 27 in that score back in that game, because then when they met up in preseason this year on August 24th, there was also another 27. And I haven't really heard anyone point out that Florida is actually the 27th state, and that, that's where Super Bowl was. And when they were founded in 1845, that's actually 174 years ago. Again, Super Bowl LIV, and it will turn 175 on March 3rd, 3-3, and that's kind of perfect because, Super Bowl February 2nd was on the 33rd day of the year. And for some more 27s, we have Miami, Reed, Demi Lovato, she's 27 years old. Red, 27, Royals, 27. NFC and AFC are now tied at 27 Super Bowl wins apiece. I mean, that looked good. That looked good the whole time. I mean, all season we knew that AFC was going to win the Super Bowl. And I won't lie, I was riding Chiefs the entire time, but I actually thought they were going to be beating the Packers because a lot of it seemed to point that direction, but I think it's just all those State Farm commercials or something threw me off. Or maybe I was a little bit biased because that used to be my team, but, Anyways, another thing I want to talk about is Kansas City Chiefs. They were established on August 14th after they had moved, or no, this was before, it must have been whenever, okay, so they must use the same date as the Texans, because I know they didn't move to Kansas City until 1963, because the 63 really stuck out. But anyways, when you run their establishment date to the Super Bowl, it equals 172 days, and Kansas City Chiefs equals 172. And to go back, I'm bringing up the Blackhawks again. I know I keep doing that because I feel like they've kind of been mimicking each other throughout the past few months. But going back to February 2nd of 2019, the Blackhawks beat the Wild 4-3. It kind of looks like 43. And so basically what I want to point out here too, so after the Earth did a full circle around the sun and such, because you know how Chiefs and the word circle kind of match each other. I mean, they have a nice 3 out of 4 cipher match. And another thing that I found kind of just by playing with the Gematrinator, full circle has a nice overlap when you type out Andrew Reed. It has the 101, 169, and 61, just like I was talking about. Andy Reid is 61 years old. So just to realize that this is what happened last year on February 2nd, 43, like football. Florida has the 43. Shakira's birthday was on Super Bowl this year, and she turned 43 years old. I mean, I don't know, just can't get any better than this, And a couple other things with the Blackhawks before we get further is, okay, so they played on the AFC Championship game day, which Blackhawks beat the Jets 5-2. And yeah, then they lost to the Panthers, but then they beat the Coyotes on February 2nd. When you currently look at their standings, they've played 52 games. So that's more what I want to point out is that they're on 52 games right now, or that's how many they've played. And when you write out 52, you get 43. And I mean, when you write out 52, you get a nice overlap with Florida, the 124, 43, and 38. And then now the 49ers are 5-2 in Super Bowls. And here we had the referee, Bill Vinovich. He wears the number 52. So I mean that was a big clue too, just seeing that. And like I was talking about in one of my previous videos, the American Indian movement, that will be 52 years this year. So I mean that to me had a big part of it, which I'll talk about. And then just yesterday I saw in the headlines that Kansas City, Missouri was hosting a parade or so, like a Red Snow Day parade is what they called it. And they kept emphasizing Red Snow Day because all schools were canceled. That even has the 52. And I point out the 142 here because Andy Reid stayed on 142 losses. That was for his overall career. And when you write out 42, you get 142. That sounds funny, but yeah, and just like I was saying how the 42 is stamped all over having been the black quarterback. And look at that, even the 43 and 38, just like Florida. So couldn't unsee that. And then I point out Minnesota 52 just because it was last year, February 2nd, 2019, when Blackhawks played Minnesota Wild. And just another note, if anyone didn't know, that's the reason why they hosted that's the reason why Minnesota hosted Super Bowl 52. But moving on to the 2015 World Series, whenever the Kansas City Royals beat the New York Mets. Notice that was the 111th World Series, and it concluded in Game 5 on November 1st. So a lot of 111s. And I've pointed out before that the word Indian equals 111. Even has the 33 connection, like Super Bowl is on the 33rd day of the year, and the 51, like total points scored in the Super Bowl. And even the name Patrick has a really nice overlap with Indian, has that 111 connection, 33 and 48. But yeah, and then to know that they were playing the New York Mets, New York has that 111. I mean, I don't know, it's all there, hidden behind the letters, there's numbers. So anyways, whenever you run November 1st, 2015 all the way to the Super Bowl, it was exactly 222 weeks, just like how Andy Reid got his 222nd win. I mean, there's so many, and then whenever you write out February 2nd, I'll remind you that February 2nd equals 222, and we'll get to a little bit more. But talking about this year's World Series, because just how all sports interconnect throughout the year, it seems like, I want to point out that this year was the 115th World Series, and Mahomes equals 115, and that just seemed perfect too, because knowing that his father was in the MLB, and the Washington Nationals took it this year, and I wanted to point out that it was their 51st season, so that 5-1 really stands out to me. And when you type out 2015 World Series, you get 372. Just like how I've been talking about, the American Indian movement has that 372, and I felt like that was a big clue for me when I noticed that, the 2018 Indigenous Day, which was on October 8th, when you run that to this past year, 2019 Indigenous Day on November 14th, it's a span of 372 days difference. And once I punched in this and saw that, I was like, nope, and it just kept going on and on. And then also, whenever we know it as Indigenous Peoples Day, or you can say Columbus Day, but it's the Indigenous Peoples Day that really stood out, is because it has the 100, like the 100th NFL season, 305, like Miami's area code, and 98, like Kansas City Chiefs. Like, that was just something that just made too much sense to me. And then here I looked into, and I did a whole video on it if you guys want to go back and watch what I had to say about the American Indian movement. But then they also have the 222 right here, just like February 2nd, and Andy Reid getting his 222nd win. But 2015 World Series has the 138, and this number played big connecting the two, I think, too. Because the Nationals equals 138, their coach, Dave Martinez, has 138, Donald Trump equals 138, because the president plays, it's there, definitely plays with sports. He plays on, like, everything that's going on in the news. But, so 138, Donald Trump, and when you run Patrick Mahomes' birthday to the Super Bowl, it was 138 days. And yeah, so Dave Martinez has that championship number like Nationals, like how I pointed out earlier that the governor, he was the 57th governor of Missouri. That's a funny connection, but it's there. And the 33, like it was the 33rd day of the year. And even American Indian Movement has the 105, like Nationals has 105. And Nationals won Game 7 to conclude the World Series. They won with their 105th win. So they actually went 105 and 74 for the whole season. And another thing I wanted to point out that I didn't really mention about the Blackhawks is, so knowing that they only played in 3 games from the time that Chiefs entered the Super Bowl and then concluded the Super Bowl, the Blackhawks went 2-1 because they lost to the Panthers, but then they beat the Coyotes and the Jets. So they went 2-1, just like how the Chiefs are now 2-1 in Super Bowls. And the Blackhawks' last game was on 2/1, and here Andy Reid just won his first Super Bowl after 21 seasons. Quite a bit there. But oh yeah, and just to point out with more of the Chiefs too, let's see, where are they at? Chiefs 32. It was just the perfect year for all that to happen. Because, there's KC Royals equals 32. There's that connection. KC Royals has the 112, just like, Kansas City? No, just Chiefs alone. Chiefs have that 112 and Super Bowl 112. And the football is supposed to be America's game. America equals 32, like even as the 50. It was a perfect year for the Chiefs to take it. And then there's 32 NFL teams in the league. And yeah, and then even when you type out fully, Kansas City has the 32 connection as well. So, there was a bunch of riddles to follow this year, but I feel like I found a lot of plays off of Native American events and such that just kept making me think more and more, yeah, definitely this is their year, they're gonna take it, yeah, but it was fun. It was fun to recognize how it all works, and definitely, yeah, I can't take sports serious anymore. Anytime I watch a game, it's just, I don't know, it's so ridiculous. You understand why things are like how they are. The ref calls this bad call. Like, I'm sure 49ers are really crying about that one touchdown where I don't even remember who it was, the Chiefs player. He tried to reach out his arm over the pylon, but then he stepped out of bounds, but his foot was out of bounds before it went over the pylon, in my opinion. I mean, that was fourth down. It would have been fourth down if they called it, not a touchdown. So, I don't know. It was too much. But, yeah, that was pretty much all I had. So, I guess I'll just end it there. We'll see ya.